assume they're done there. I hope they had a safe trip. If they're watching, we miss you. And but anyway, I know some sickness going on, and I just pray for Mama. She's got to have some tests done, so I keep lifting her up. But we always, as long as we're living, we always got somebody to pray for, ain't we? Oh, well, that's a good thing. God never said He would keep us out of the storm, but He'd shelter us from the storm. That's great. So I'm going to give somebody time to sit down. I'm not going to call Stephanie's name because everybody just, the thousands of people that watch us just watch you attack me. Let's go to the Lord in prayer this morning. You ought to be happy. What you just heard Tim read, you ought to be happy. So let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity in this time. Lord, I thank you for the grace, Lord, that you've offered all men and women, boys and girls. But Father, I thank you most of all for your grace for me, for what you've done for me. Lord, I want to give you honor and glory. Father, I pray that you bless the churches we've been praying for. Lord, I just pray to just share the good news, Lord, for those areas and those communities. Father, Lord, help me on to do the same. Bless Brother Bob as he stands today to break the bread of life. And Lord, I just pray that they be anyone here today that they need to make a decision for Christ. Lord, I pray that humble themselves and trust Jesus. Father, thank you. Use us for your Lord. I pray this be a help to us all. And Lord, I thank you in Christ's holy name. Amen. So we're going to pick up here in Numbers 27, 12 through 17. Now, I said if you heard what Tim read, you ought to get excited because that's talking about the big part. Anybody know what that party is called? Come on, somebody jump out there. What's that party called? What am I fascinated with? Y'all pay me no attention. The 1,000-year millennial reign. It's, we only get just a touch in the book of Revelation, but when you go back from all the way through Genesis through Revelation, you see it's just there. So, but, that's some good stuff coming up. So, but we're going to pick up here the title of our lesson this morning, and keep that in mind. I didn't know Tim was going to read that, and the Lord gave me a finishing thought this morning, 1,000-year millennial reign. So our three words, we're going to observe, we're going to profit, and we're going to be in union. We're going to do that this morning. We're going to look at something. So we're going to look at the title, Moses and Joshua. And our point, the point is so key this morning. Mentor and disciple those who come after you. Okay. Quick, real brief, because I've got a long lesson. I'll be done about 11:30. Anybody got to go to the bathroom and do it now? Who has mentored you in your life? Who would you say your number one mentors are? I figured that'd be the parent. Okay. Maybe quickly, some examples how they mentored you. For the good or the bad. We're human. Let's see.
I can tell you how.
Go ahead.
I was a little kid. I was at a Baptist church on Lantana Road in Crossville. And all the men would always gravitate to the back. Well, I got back there with the men, and they come back convinced on me. And that's what they call it. They say, ain't you ashamed you're a sinner? Boy, I cry my eyes out. They had me mentored, all right.
Yeah. Good.
But I remember it, and I remember where it was, and it was a very important day in my life. And on the way home, I had such a light feeling that it was worth getting in the Caneyford River up there.
Well, there you go. That's good. That's good. So I'm going to give you a product of mentorship. When you see me, you see Mac and Rebecca Irvin. Like or dislike, that's what you got. But I've got some more mentors. And I know who they are, and I won't bring that out. But people influence. Mentor is influencing you. How you walk, how you live. So we're going to look. Moses and Joshua. So we're going to pick up here. So keep this in mind this morning as we go. And the Lord said unto Moses, Get thee up into this Mount Abiram, and see the land which I have given to the children of Israel. He says, Moses, you're going to die. And when I have seen it, thou also shalt be gathered unto thy people, as Aaron thy brother was gathered. You're going to die. That's what he said. Moses, it's time for you to die. It's time for you to part. Listen, and he's just talking to Moses. For ye rebelled against my commandment in the desert of Zin, in the strife of the congregation to sanctify me at the water before their eyes. That is the water of, and I can't pronounce these words like I should. So Meribah and Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin. And Moses spake unto the Lord, saying, Let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation, which may go out before them, and which may go in before them, and which may lead them out, and which may bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord be not as sheep which have no shepherd. All right? You remember there was a time when Moses said, Lord, can't I go in? I think we only have one record. And I can't take you to the scripture, but remember the Lord said, now Moses, you know, I told you couldn't. He didn't go back on, he said, but Moses, I'll let you see. Well, we see that's what takes place here. Moses ain't arguing. Remember, Moses is the most meekest man. Okay, he's not arguing. Okay, wait a minute. But he says, Lord, I'm going. I pray that you put somebody in my place to lead these people. Okay, right? Because I don't want them going in without a leader. Okay, what would you kind of call that leader? A shepherd? A shepherd leading his flock? What Jesus said, oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how oft would I gather you together? What was he saying? You ain't got no shepherd. Okay, so but Moses, you see Moses' prayer. He's not saying, Lord, can't you change it? He never brings it up again. Okay, so mentoring. But now we got to run back to the previous part of the chapter, the first half of the chapter, I could say. We had some children or some daughters of Manasseh, would be the head. And it tells their father, they died in the wilderness, and the inheritance was go to the sons, right? But he had no sons. Okay? The daughter says, why should our father be left out? His name not remembered. Oh, that's what they said. They said, shouldn't it come our way? Well, I'm going to run back and read it to you because it's key. And this is in verse, you can go back and read it, and I'm just reading 2 verses. As Moses brought their cause before the Lord. That's in the same chapter 27, verse 5. And then this is verse 6. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, now he tells them what to do. You can read it for yourself. It's there. So that's key to our lesson. Mentoring and discipling somebody else. Moses took it to the Lord. The Lord responded to Moses, laid it out in a beat. Okay. So we're going to pick up there. So now we see God says, all right, this issue is solved. Moses, it's time. You go on up there, and I'm going to let you see. I'm going to let you see what the inheritance is. And Moses got to say, I don't know if it was I believe it was supernatural. God just showed him. Because, you can go up on a high mountain, you can see for a pretty good range. Man, that's a lot of area for one man to see. So I believe God kind of opened it. That's just my thought. Well, I believe God opened his eyes, let him see it. So, but we see that. And he says, Lord, and when we see his prayer, he said, Lord, would you put a man, he didn't say Joshua, did he? What tribe was Joshua? Anybody know? I think the bridle brought it out. If they hadn't brought it out, I couldn't tell you. But he was from the tribe of Ephraim, I'm pretty sure. Did you see that? Okay. Go to the corner. No, yeah, I believe now I may be wrong, but I think he was from the tribe of Ephraim. You got Ephraim and Manasseh. They got possession. Okay. What tribe was Moses from? Levi. The tribe of Levi. What were the Levites? What was their inheritance? They didn't have one, but who were they? priest. The priestly line. Moses didn't ask for another priest, did he? He asked for a leader. What was Joshua? We talked about this in our men's group some, or when we was there. He was probably the greatest general Israel ever had. What is a general? A man of war, right? Where were they going into? Who God set up. But now we see Moses didn't. No, you got to take Moses. Joshua's kind of been there ministering to Moses all this time. He didn't say, Lord, take Joshua. He said, Lord, you know the best. Let's see what he says. Let me go back and read it right quick. This fits and get real good. I hope you get what I got. I'm going to try to give it to you. And Moses spake, it goes in verse 15. Now listen, again, these are key things. And the Lord spake, and Moses spake unto the Lord, saying, let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation. He said, Lord, raise somebody up in my stead. He knew what he was called for, to lead the people out. Okay. He said, listen what he says, which may go out before them, before the people, and which may go in before them. He's a leader. That's what he said, God, these people need a leader. Okay. And he goes on and brings that out. Now let's look in our next section. This goes in 18 and 20. Now, remember, Moses said to the Lord, now you see this? And the Lord said unto Moses, do y'all see something going on here? What do you call it? What do we call this? That's another word I'm looking for. What do we call us talking to God, God talking to us? Prayer. You see prayer going on here? Us going to God. But you know, think about it. If you pray to God and you never get an answer, how do you feel? Ain't that kind of bad? Now, the God's not with audible voice, but we see what was given. We see prayer going on here, right? He takes his need to God, and because remember, we go back to the first part, there was a situation. What did he do with the situation about the daughters? He went and prayed. Did he not? He said, Lord, what do we do? He said, I don't know what. Did you see that? Moses didn't know what to do. He said, Lord, what do we do? Moses and God laid everything out. And it was law. And Moses obeyed. He said, this is what we do, and that's how they do it. If you'll go back, it goes all the way down. You can find it in the area of Ruth. Remember Boaz, the kinsman redeemer? All that kind of goes back here. And we see that, how God laid it out. All right? So we see Moses, anything comes up, he goes to the Lord. Hope you're catching on real quick. Because remember what it said, our point, or to mentor or disciple? Okay. And the Lord said to Moses, take thee Joshua, the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay thy hand upon him. Listen to this. Okay? You take Joshua. Now, wait a minute. The whole time Moses had been going to God, giving what God gave him to the people. What did most of the people do? Rejected, rebelled. Did Joshua? He had a spirit to do what the Lord had wanted done. He had a spirit of obedience. We need a spirit of obedience, okay? Then we're going a little bit further. And he says, lay thy hand upon him. Now there's a reason behind this. And set him before Eleazar, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, the priest, and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight. And thou shalt put some of thy honor upon him. Now this is why he told him to do it. Who did the people look to lead them? One man. Who was he? Moses. Moses is going to die. He said, Lord, they need somebody to go. He said, you do this. You put some of your honor on him, that they will follow him. Because remember, there was a time when they rebelled against Moses. Remember? And the man's name? And God wiped them out. You know, Moses was meek. He didn't fight with them. He said, you let the Lord choose. We'll put it in that way. I can't think of his name. It's leaving my mind. But anyway. But look, okay, say Moses died and this hadn't happened. Who would have led the people? They'd all been jockeying for position, wouldn't it? Hey, it should be us that lead the children of Israel. Some of the Levites might say, hey, Moses was a Levite. We need to lead him here. But you see what Moses done? He said, God, you choose the man. Right? Is that not what he done? He said, God, you choose the man. He said, all right, I've chosen this Joshua. Now you go do this so the people will honor him like they honored you. That's what happened here. Okay. And thou shalt put some of thy honor upon him, that all the congregation of the children of Israel may be obedient. Obedient to Joshua. They'd follow him like they followed Moses. Now listen, let's go on here. And he shall stand before, now this is God still speaking to Moses. And he shall stand before Elijah the priest, who shall ask counsel for him after the judgment of Urim. Now, I don't understand these things. This is something how they done. It was on the priestly garment, best I understood, and they would lay it out. Never had it fail. That's kind of how they go. That's the best of my understanding. So I don't have great understanding of that, but anyway, that's kind of how things work. Before the Lord. At his word they shall go out, and at his word they shall come in, both he and all the children of Israel with him, even all the congregation. That was God. God finished talking, right? He finished, you see where he finished talking, he quit talking to Moses. Okay, now listen to this. And Moses did as the Lord commanded him. Okay, first of all, let's go back. We went back to the earlier verses. Moses spoke to the Lord about a situation, resolved it. Moses listened. He gave instruction. He was obedient. He gave those instructions. You see that? We ask God. God responds. What's her obligation? One word. Obedience. Right? Obedience. If you're not obedient, what are you? That's it. One or two ways. One or two things there. You're obedient or you're disobedient. Okay, we're going somewhere here. And now remember, you got to remember this. We talked about it. The whole time that they were led out, and Moses led it out, and Moses done everything that God told him to do. Who was watching everything Moses done? Who was watching everything Moses done? We just called his name. Joshua. He's seeing everything that Moses does, how he communicates to God, how he listens to God, how he obeys God, right? He sees that. Okay, now look. And he tells him what to do. And Moses did as the Lord commanded. He was obedient, okay? And he took Joshua and set him before Elijah the priest and before all the congregations. Moses, wait a minute. What tribe we say he was from? Levi? Joshua was from Ephraim? Pretty sure. You can check. Did Moses argue with God? Did he want somebody from his line to lead the people? Oh, God, I think we'd be better if Levi would do it. One of my kinfolk would be better. He never did that, did he? He was obedient to, because why? Who knows the best for your life, for my life, for everybody's life? Who knows the best? Pretty simple. Moses knew who the best was to put the best man in charge. Okay? So he's obedient here. And he laid his hands upon him and gave him a charge as the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses. Now remember, that's all of our scripture. So what we're looking at, do you see the consistency of Moses going to God over anything? Everything. He was consistent, right? Would you disagree or agree? I got one agrees. Did anybody else agree that Moses went to him? Okay, got two. We'll call that majority. Moses went to God about everything. God gave him directions, what to do. Right? We agree on that. Moses was obedient. He failed one time. And he didn't get to go in. Boy, ain't you glad Jesus died for us? I get to go in, and I failed multiple times. Okay. I want to say something here. Now, this is taking place. And of course, we still have another book. Now we've seen it ain't been long since we had a reading where Moses went up and he died. And God buried him. It was a funeral procession of one. Moses was dead and God buried Moses. So anyway, we see that. Okay, what are you trying to bring out, Doug? Remember, Joshua has seen this his whole life. He's seen, or this time, the whole time, Moses sought the Lord. Moses heard from the Lord. Moses was obedient to the Lord. What kind of man was Joshua?
Marched around the streets of Jericho and all the walls.
Who told him to do that, JC? So he kind of a good mentor then, or a good student, wouldn't you say? The Lord told him to march around 7 days, and on the seventh day, 7 times. He listened to the Lord, right? What happened? They marched around, what happened? Walls fell down. Walls fell down. He was obedient. Okay, he prayed, God answered, he was obedient. Okay, now wait a minute. I want to go to something. This is in Joshua chapter 10. Most people don't like to talk about this in the world. There is 24 hours. Besides, and I don't know how they do it. I don't know how there's 24 hours in the time that cannot be accounted for. Now we don't hear nothing about that, really. Scientists don't bring that out, and they won't look here. But you're fixing to see, and it was 2 events in the Bible that took place. We're fixing to read one. The other was in Hezekiah asked for a sign, and he rolled back the sun. See, that was time. I think that was 18 minutes. 18 minutes. But this is the other time. I want to read you this. And this is, I don't know if you'll say the meat, but this is something I want you to learn. I want to learn. This is in Joshua chapter 10, starting in verse 12. Listen, don't this sound familiar? Then spake Joshua unto the Lord. Does that sound familiar? Where did he get that from? Moses spoke to the Lord. You see the similarity? Wait a minute. Now Joshua's speaking to the Lord. Okay, we're going to see something. In the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel, and he said in the sight of Israel, listen what he says. Remember, he's speaking, now he's being obedient. He was to go in, and he was to destroy those enemies. Okay, have you ever seen those places? There'll be a plague, and they take and they just ravish. I mean, the plague has stayed in a certain place. Most times, don't they burn those places? Especially in the older days. They just set them afire and just, you see what's going on here? This plague of sin was to be stayed. It was to be destroyed. And a lot of times, if you'll read this, you'll say, man, why did the Lord do this? These were corrupt, wicked, and I don't know the right words, malevolent people. They would ravish the children. They would ravish the women. Or they would torture the men. This was a people, the children of Israel were going in to possess their land. They was that kind of people. Does it sound familiar? Kind of sounds like our day, don't it? Modern America. That's what's going on. But I want to read this to you. Go back and read it. And then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said, this is Joshua, and he said in the sight of Israel, here it is, they're out there doing battle, and Joshua stands up and he speaks these words, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Adjadon, I can't say this word. But you know what Moses done? Not Moses, Joshua done? They're slaying these enemies. And you know what he says? Lord, we need more time. God said, you speak to the sun, and you speak to the moon, and they'll obey your voice. Huh? Let me finish reading this. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood, listen to this, so the sun stood still in the midst of heaven. What does that sound like to me? In the midst of heaven? High noon. High noon. It stayed that way. Listen to this. And hasted not to go down about a whole day. You know what the rest of the day was for? Hezekiah. When that time happened, it finished that. There's a day, a 24-hour period that these scientists cannot recollect. They'll try to bring up everything. Y'all got the answer. When they ask you, say, hey, go read the book of Joshua. Go read in the book of Kings, and you'll find these answers. Okay, anyway. Now listen to this. This is where I want to get to. And there was no day like that day before it or after it, that the Lord hearkened to the voice of a man. For the Lord fought for Israel. You see what he just said? There was never a day that the Lord hearkened to the voice of a man. Who got the credit for that? We're talking 1,000-year millennial reign. Where Joshua would learn to talk like that? Where Joshua learned to talk to the Lord like that? Who? Who got a bigger crown? Who got a bigger crown? Moses. Mentor, disciple. Let your children, your grandchildren, your church family see you taking to the Lord everything. And let God answer, you be obedient. When they come up, when a situation arises, okay, wait a minute, boy, I got a perfect thing. When Charlie Riley come up and say, hey, I don't know what to do, Daddy and Mama always prayed. I want to go pray to my Lord too. Where'd they learn that from? Now, you know, it talks about wrath until the day of wrath. Stored up, I think it's Paul brought that up. The judgment seat of Christ. This is not the judgment seat of Christ. But talking about wrath, okay. One of the most famous wicked people you'll ever hear of is Hugh Hefner. Everybody know who Hugh Hefner is? Yeah. The inventor of Playboy. Dead and gone. How many young boys are still picking up that trash? Polluting their mind. His wrath ain't stored up yet. It's still building. You see it's still building? Wait a minute. Let's turn it over to the judgment seat of Christ. You taught your children to pray. Again, this is teaching us to mentor. Now wait a minute. I got to stop. I got to say, Lord, thank you for your grace. I spoke to Jonathan and Bobby about a wicked little boy that got saved at New Home and walked out in the world, still being at New Home and lived like the devil, come in here. You know what God done? Oh, he chastised me. But look where he got me today. It's just his glory, his grace. I ain't got a thing to do. You know what he's doing? He's let me have a little. He's let me do just a little. And I give him praise. And if I can help you, listen, if the Lord gives me something to help you, no, I'm not trying to lay something up for me and give me a big head. I'm just thankful he gave me an opportunity. But look, let's go on a little bit further. And I'm using them. Because we have children, grandchildren, friends, parents. They see them, and they come up. Now this is a warning too. Don't make decisions without the Lord. You know why? I can tell you it don't work. I can tell you it don't work. But let's go down. If the Lord lets us live 500 years, I don't know how many generations that would be. Okay, Charlie and Riley has learned from Lindsay and Ryan, okay, say they have children, and they learn, hey, Mama and Daddy prayed about every situation. They trusted God. Okay, it goes on down to the next generation. You see what's going on? But it comes from where? Ryan and Lindsay. Right? Wait a minute. Let's just... Lord, I'm not trying to be prideful or boastful. Who gave you that lesson this morning, Ryan? Who gave you this lesson this morning about me? Boy, I'm thankful he didn't leave me out. I'm glad he didn't leave me out. Wait a minute. It ain't me. You know who remember I had some mentors. Brother Bobby's one. I'm thankful for him. But wait a minute. I had Brother Mike Claiborne. I had Brother Clarence Wright. I had Brother Larry Thomas. They helped me a whole lot. But I also had some others. 3 of them's in heaven. And I still listen to them daily. Billy Graham. Adrian Rogers. Charles Stanley. Tony Evans. Now wait a minute. Remember I said there's going to be a big party. 1,000-year millennial reign. Rewards. God wants to give you rewards. Now a lot of people ain't going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you, here's something I want. I want you to have as many as you can get. Y'all want to know why I study? There it is. I want you, this little small Sunday school class, to have as many as you can get. And the Lord said, no, just study. Give it to them. That's all I want. You think, well, that's selfish. Well, it probably is, but I'm thankful. Not that you can put back. And here, now let's stop it in its tracks. Not that I can get anything, but God. Because it was His grace that gave me another opportunity. You know what He could say? I'm done, you little hard-headed rascal. Done. But His love and His mercy said, come on back. Oh, He whipped me hard. And I tell you what, when the Lord whips you, you still feel it sometimes on down the road. Or I do. But you see how everything works out? Praise God for His matchless, wonderful grace. It's unmatchable. That's what I want you to see. Mentoring. There's a reason we want them. Because look at some of the other children of Israel. Man, they rebelled. They went back to following up. But when we teach and we mentor other people and try to point them, just pray. Trust God. Charles Stanley, I think he said this all the time. Trust God and leave all the consequences to Him. I want to be that kind of man. I want to take it to God and leave it at His feet. Whatever it tells me, I hope and pray, Lord, help me to be obedient. That's what I want. That's what I want for y'all. I do. That's my heart's desire. It's for us to grow together. Now we got to serve. We got some profit. We got some union. There's more rewards than we can ever. Hey, the way I take the Bible, we can't comprehend what God's got laid up in store. Why would anybody want to miss anything? A lot of people, I'm going to heaven. Man, heaven's full of rewards. Don't you want them? Does anybody not want the rewards God has for His children? I didn't think I'd see no hand. And I don't know them all by no means. That's all I got. I know I've kept you a long time. I got close to 11:30. Anyways, anybody got anything before we dismiss? Jonathan, you dismiss us.